All right, on to number 2. This one's a little longer. I'll try to go faster on this one. I interjected a lot on the first one here. So I'll try to go a little faster on this one. All right, this one says, a leftist student insists facts are unfair. All right, let's see what kind of facts this guy doesn't like.
Hello. Sorry if I'm not as articulate as I could be. It's weird to see you guys in person. I am kind of interested in the wordplay, specifically Charlie, because I've seen the most of you online, but also Candace, but I'm afraid I have nothing to ask, but specifically Charlie. A lot of the wordplay you use, and a lot of the sources that you draw on, like the statistics, you're very good at just ramping off statistics and throwing them into the person that you're arguing. I was wondering, where do you collect your sources, and do you make them easily accessible?
Of course. Would you like to name an example that I can cite for you now?
I don't question that the things that you're saying are factual. It's more how they are phrased and how they are put to us. So, for example, the thing that you've just said now about abortion, could you quickly remind me so I don't trip over my own words?
Sure, I'll do the first one. I say, a celebration of a pregnancy, why do we call that event a baby shower, not a fetus shower?
Right. So that in itself sounds like, oh, right, well, that means there's a cultural acceptance of the idea that it's a baby pre-birth. But that's just a linguistic, cultural way. So I'm pro-choice, for example, but I would still call it a baby shower. That doesn't mean I culturally accept the idea that it's a baby pre-birth. I'm just using a linguistic standard.
There's deeper meaning. Now, let's play this out. It's fun. So if the individual that has the baby shower decides right after the baby shower to have an abortion, what is that inside of her called?
I don't want to do this, if that's all right. I don't want to do abortion.
I know, but you see all of a sudden your argument
Can I use a different
up?
example if abortion is kicking up too much dust?
Say that again.
Can I use a different example
Sure,
of a fact?
that's fine,
Okay,
that's
so
fine. Perfectly fine.
the first thing
I think that's fair. This guy's entering the conversation in good faith, and personally, I don't like to take a strong stand on abortion either. To an extent, or largely, I do believe it is a woman's right, her body, her choice, right? But also as a man, if I'm engaged in a solid relationship with a woman, and we get pregnant, right? Nobody says it's not I got pregnant, it's not you got pregnant, it's not she got pregnant. It's we. People everywhere say we got pregnant, right? It's a joint effort, and as a man, that's a very huge thing, and I would definitely want at least to have a conversation before ideally my wife goes and has an abortion, right? So I don't know. I'm pretty. It's a very, very divisive topic. I understand why, and it's a very complicated topic, and I understand why as well. And I respect this guy's choice to disengage with it and try to look at something else instead, for the sake of the argument he's trying to make, which I'm not sure what it is yet. We'll see.
So with you in was your political debate with Hassan.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I saw of you. And you said, you'll probably still remember it, but it was that, the worst 10 cities in America were run by Democrats.
Yeah, the poorest, most murderous. Yeah.
Right. So I looked it up because I wanted to read up on it, and there wasn't a source in the video mirror I'd seen. And that was correct. But it was also correct that of the top 10 cities, most of them were Democrat, and across the board, on average, most cities are Democrat. So the fact that you took it out of the entirety of the fact, which is that most cities are Democrat, the top best cities are Democrat, and the worst cities are Democrat, and you chose to only say that the worst cities are Democrat.
Top best cities are Democrat?
Well, so he means the most he means the wealthiest.
In the same way that, yeah. So the study that I found that mirrored your statistic said that.
So cities tend to be more, urban areas tend to be more to the left, just as they are. But when Republican mayors are actually allowed the chance to govern, the results are remarkable. And so let's juxtapose cities versus states, or even if you want to extrapolate what my argument was really talking about. In the laboratory of democracy theory, which we all believe in, which is when certain states are allowed to have juxtaposed policies and contrast against each other, you see huge differences. So the most prosperous, most job-creating, most entrepreneurial states are ones with Republican governors and low tax, low regulation type policies. And there is a correlation between the most murderous, the most dangerous, and the most honestly hopeless areas, and Candace grew up in one of them, are almost always dominated by Democrats.
All right, so when you think of crime capitals of the U.S., what do you think of? You think of Baltimore. You think of Detroit. You think of Chicago. You think of L.A. When you think of the homelessness capital of the U.S., what do you think of? Me personally, I think of San Francisco. They literally created phone apps to track where shit is on the sidewalks and streets because they had and have such a rampant homelessness population that they're just out there shitting everywhere. So yeah, I mean, tracks to me. I don't know the statistics as he does, but like, tracks to me. Let's see what else they say.
But when those Republican policies are actually allowed to be instituted, those communities turn around quite quickly. So.
And another one was that you said, I think it was the life expectancy in Cuba was 15 years lower than that in the United States.
Yeah, if the government doesn't kill you, right.
Right, democide. But I looked it up as well, and I found there was no information on that. And in fact, the Google definition, which draws on, it cites many different studies, and it fills it all in and it pulls it all together, and it chooses the most reasonable response that's backed up by facts and logic.
Well, what AI does now is it chooses what's backed up by like Reddit. So careful with that.
It said that it was actually a year older than the US. So
So
how do you,
great
especially
point.
when you're like, I think it's called galloping, when you're throwing so many points in a debate, do you not think it's unfair and unreasonable and maybe at points even manipulative to be phrasing things in a certain way that might be, when beyond scrutiny, it's like me who had to Google all of these statistics, which pan out to be not as obtrusive and anti-left as you say they are? Do you not think that's at the worst incompetent, and at the best incompetent, and at the worst malicious?
So you're entitled to your own opinion, not entitled to your own facts. Let's talk about the Cuban one. I reject the own Cuban government's health statistics completely and totally. I don't believe the socialist governments of Cuba's health statistics that they submit to the World Health Organization or the United Nations, because objective, independent analysis of their own health standards are nearly 20 to 30 years behind life expectancy that their own government produces. So what you're looking at is corroborated by people that want it to be true, and we can have a 30-minute discussion over whether you believe the Cuban health statistics, but the answer is, show me another statistic of anything I've talked about in the 300 hours that Candace and I have done, public speaking. Everything I talk about, everything I do is rooted in years of research and backing and data, and I'm happy to talk about each specific one. I don't want to monopolize the time here, but I reject the premise and the insinuation that somehow I'm being reckless, because facts are not reckless. In fact, it's the basis of why we're here and why what we believe.
All right, so TLDR, Charlie rejects, and I think it would say a lot about you to disagree with this. He rejects the statistics put out by the Cuban government, right? I would reject any statistics put out by the Chinese government or the Venezuelan government. Countries like this, right? They have no incentive to be honest. They have every incentive to be dishonest.
You successfully pivoted away from the intention of my question, which was.
And to that end, the U.S. and Canada and Westernized countries, we and they also have an incentive to be dishonest with statistics we put out there, which is why you see politicians and media and everyone, they cherry pick statistics, right? They cherry pick them, they manipulate them. They do exactly what this gentleman on the screen is talking about, is accusing Charlie of doing. They do exactly that. They take statistics and they manipulate them and they leave out context so it sounds good for whichever side they're on, and stuff like that. So, I mean, anytime you're dealing with statistics, you have to take it with a grain of salt. You have to look into it. You have to make an attempt to get the whole picture, or like this guy's case, he's seeking out the correct approach, but in doing so, he's failing to account for, hey, that is not, these are statistics put out by a government that does not act in good faith across the board. So you have there's really no basis or no reason for you to believe anything they say. But he's on the right track.
wasn't the factual nature of this. You successfully pivoted away from the intention of my question, which wasn't the factual nature of the statements you were saying. It's
Right.
the way
So-
that you phrased them.
So I phrased them effectively, and that should be a problem?
No, it's not about effectively as defined by you, as in it promotes
you
your
even
agenda.
said
So in
that
this-
you
can I
pivoted quickly
finish
away
my-
from the
can I finish
abortion
my-
thing.
Can I please finish my... Huh?
Happy to, yeah.
I pivoted away from the abortion thing, not because I didn't want to talk about it, but because it made me uncomfortable to do so.
Okay. Nitpick here, but if something makes you uncomfortable, then that's inherently you not wanting to deal with it, right? So yes, it's because you didn't want to talk about it. But anyways.
Do you think it's effective the way I worded it? Because maybe it made you think a way you never had to think before? The point is, like, I could do that for every issue.
It's more that, so you say like, oh, we shouldn't trust the Cuban health statistics because they've
Correct.
got an agenda to promote, and that probably makes a lot of sense. But similarly, there are people whose
Yeah, see, he understands. Oh, sorry. See, he understands. I think this is a pretty smart guy. He probably just has a problem with some of the things that Charlie has said in the past or Turning Point, and so he's trying to get to the root of it, because I think he's addressing this this conversation with Charlie in very good faith, and that's just his goal, is to try to understand why he presents some of the things he does in a certain way.
that probably makes a lot of sense. But similarly, there are people whose prime objective, as if they're still stuck in McCarthyism, is to obliterate any form of socialism and communism as an opposition to free market capitalism. And so, similarly, in the same way that we shouldn't trust the authorities in Cuba.
If the root of this is capitalism versus socialism, is there an example where socialism is really thriving and worked as a concept? Like, this is what I don't understand. It's weird to me when people come up to this discussion and it's like, at your core, you're just what, defending socialism, defending Cuba, defending what are you defending?
That's not the root of.
I'm Candace right now. I don't know what the heck he's getting at. Like, what's his main concern? What's his question? I'm very confused. So I would like him to get to the bottom line.
My question.
I get what you're saying is he phrasing things in a way that maybe aren't fair, because you could find something on the internet that maybe supports communism and socialism. That's essentially what you're saying, right?
No, you're mischaracterizing me, actually.
Okay, how am I mischaracterizing you?
You're mischaracterizing me because you've generalized what I'm saying, which is that I've looked into talking points that Charlie's raised. I've
Right.
found the exact I found the exact studies that he's referenced, and know that they do because they actually mirror the things that he's said verbatim.
So they're cited.
And
So I do use studies, is what you're saying.
I never said you didn't, Charlie.
I'm not sure where you're coming
Well,
from.
that's why I'm saying
Do
I'm
either of you
not
understand where I'm
mischaracterizing
coming
you. I get what you're saying. You're saying, Charlie, he's saying that you say facts, but there are also alternative facts that would maybe present socialism and communism in a better way.
Okay, so this is why a lot of people have a problem with Candace Owens, right? In one breath, she says, I'm not mischaracterizing you. In the very next breath, what does she do? She mischaracterizes him. Right, so this gentleman here, he's not presenting alternative facts. Well, okay, maybe he is, but even if he is, he's not doing it maliciously or intentionally. He's saying, I did some research as well. This is what I found, and it goes against what you said. And he's presenting it out of a place of believing what he researched more than what Charlie said, despite the fact that what Charlie said is also statistically and factually true. Although I suppose in the Cuba case, this guy said he couldn't find the statistics that Charlie cited, but he found, like, I don't know, statistics the Cuban government put out there. So I don't know. It's just weird. Candace is mischaracterizing him. There's a reason a lot of people don't like Candace. I think Candace is okay, but, like, I don't know. There's a reason not a lot of people talk about her these days.
You're saying it's unfair because of the way he's saying them, not because of...
Because from what I'm getting, you're saying that
well,
he's...
that's called a debate.
Yeah, essentially what you're saying is he's too good at presenting his argument. Because you're saying... No, let me
All four of them are confused. I'm confused. Nobody knows what he's getting at. I don't know.
finish. You've just said you went and looked over the things that Charlie said. You found them to be backed by studies, which would mean they were factual. So he's not lying. He's not mischaracterizing or using wrong data. Let me finish. You've been allowed to talk for a while now. And then, but the way he presents him in an argument when you say he's galloping may maybe make his opponent afraid to talk, or I don't know what it does.
Basically
to them.
wants Charlie
However,
to
the
argue
bottom
with
line
himself.
is, the bottom line is, you're saying Charlie's using facts. I don't get how that can be a disagreement.
Well, it's
that Charlie
unfair.
uses facts in his arguments.
You're saying
and
that
then
he's
people
not
come up-
presenting other facts
Right.
that would defeat his debate.
Yeah.
So you're basically saying he should do also the job of Charlie Kirk and whoever's debating him, which is
in the
just
same time.
ludicrous.
That's essentially what you're saying, is that Charlie should say, okay, you should look at a socialist country and say Venezuela people are killing their pets to eat food, etc. However, in this situation, they had really good weather and it was sunny, etc. I don't understand how you want him as one side of the. Yeah, give me. I'm going to finish.
And by the way, another good use of this time would have been if you actually had the alternate facts and just debated Charlie.
Just said yes and said.
While you were here, as opposed to debating the
Because
concept.
there's no point
that
having her in
Charlie should be
opposition
debating Charlie.
without actually getting the facts yourself to come and debate, rather than saying he uses facts too well.
Yeah, final point, and I'll
Can I-
let my attorneys answer the rest of the question.
Again, you've mischaracterized what I'm truly saying here, which is that you're not trying to genuinely convince people. You seem to be, from the presentation of the facts that I've given you as an example, phrasing truths in a very specific way and choosing to ignore things that present it in a more balanced way to basically trick people, right? That's no. Please let me.
Okay. Yes. Not no. Yes. So essentially, this guy's just he's opting. He's choosing to believe. All we have so far is we were going to talk about abortion. He didn't want to. Okay, fine. And so all we have to go off of now is the Cuban example, Cuban America versus Cuban life expectancy example. So this guy is opting to believe the Cuban government over. What we'll just boil it down to what Charlie said, because he was unable to find the source for the statistics that Charlie put out in that whenever Charlie was talking about that, and I don't know, earlier in this or in a different video or whatever. So he's opting to go with numbers from the Cuban government over what Charlie has said. And now we're just having an argument about it. So I don't know. We'll see what they say.
Please let me finish. Please let me finish. Please let me finish. Please let me finish. Can I finish?
They
Please let me
argue
finish.
their opinion.
Look, fact. No, seriously. Hear me out, man.
Facts
Hear
are
me out.
unfair.
Facts, right? Facts don't care about your feelings, right? Facts are objective statehoods, right? But the way that you choose to present them, right? It's like saying if a statistic is 68%, you can't just rearrange the 68 to say 86, right? Hear me out, because that is just lying.
You could rearrange it to say 32, no? You could rearrange it to say 32, the other way around. Those are both factual things. If you say 68%.
I'm saying if you just... do I need the mic? I can hear me. Oh, sure. The way that you're choosing to... the way that you're choosing to talk about statistics, the things that you're choosing to neglect that present things in a more balanced way, indicates that your objective here isn't to convince people based on the whole truth, but in fact to play off of people's inability to quickly respond by asking for sources. Like if you provided a source sheet, I'm struggling to articulate this, but it's just, with the example I gave you about the Democrat cities, right? That's a pretty condemning statistic that the worst cities, to summarize, are mostly Democratic.
Yeah,
but you didn't present the whole statistic, and that was a very purposeful choice. If you look up that study,
Charlie's not going to debate himself. I don't this is very
because
confusing
it's not
to
a game,
me.
Candace, is
But
it?
no,
It's
but
not
you
a
just
game.
said when he goes on campuses and he debates with people that he's not presenting facts that would try to destroy the fact that he just gave. That's the
No, they're the
concept of
same
a debate.
facts, Candace. I don't see what you're
That's
not
why it's
understanding
but
here.
that's what it's called a debate.
Because it's not about, it's the point of a debate, if you care about humanity, if you care about improving people's welfare, should be to present objective facts based on independent studies and decide which is what Charlie does, but choosing to neglect the entirety of the factual statement.
Okay, I think this is now turning into like a Yelp review of Charlie Kirk, and I'm not really getting
because
the
he's
point
an
of it.
influential man, and his practices, and everyone's practices need to be
but I'm
scrutinized,
saying
and
that
yours
this
are
is-
semantically
I wish you
deceitful.
actually had. I wish you actually would just debate Charlie. That would I think would be more
Yeah,
productive
in closing,
for everybody
I do
here.
appreciate you coming up and saying this. I will issue a challenge to the world. Anyone can come prepared with any hundreds of pages of documents to debate me, and I wish them well. Thank you.
Okay, unfortunately, I think this video got kind of hijacked by Candace Owens, this debate with this gentleman. This guy he came in, I think, in very good faith. Where is he? I think he came in and...
Do you not think that's...
in very good faith, just trying to get trying to get a better understanding of how and why Turning Point and Charlie specifically present things in the way that they do, and then also with the belief that maybe they do present some things in a misleading way, and maybe they do. I'm not very familiar with Turning Point's work outside of Charlie Kirk. Everything I've seen with Charlie Kirk has been very fair. So I don't know. I know Candace Owens. Clearly, she's in this video. She's been involved with Turning Point to a great extent in the past. So that could certainly add to it. Yeah, I think Candace Owens derailed the conversation a good bit, but I also think this gentleman's failure to come with good examples, I think that contributed to it quite a bit as well. If he just came prepared with like 1, 2, 3 examples, then they could have got down to brass tacks a little better. Like the Cuban example, like what are you doing? You're just taking Cuban government's numbers? No, that's just absurd. And then I think he does have a fair point on the Democrat cities, worst and best cities. One, what does that mean? What does it mean to be the worst city? What does it mean to be the best city? 2, most cities are Democrat. We see that every election, right? But I don't know. It ultimately did not end up being a very productive or fruitful discussion, debate, conversation, whatever you want to call it, between them. Yeah. So that is 2 videos down. And just on the Charlie Kirk channel here, there are many, many, many videos. And I'm just going to start chugging away at them here. Here we're to 5 months finally. We might be able to get to the bottom, actually. They do a lot every month. Hopefully Turning Point just keeps chugging ahead, and they carry on the torch that Charlie Kirk has passed on to them, because he's done a lot of good work. I was online earlier, saw a bunch of videos, saw one guy, he was an atheist. Saw one guy, he was an atheist his whole life, and he saw Charlie talk about his trip to Israel, and it convinced him to come to God. I saw a video by this little kid. I mean, he couldn't have been more than 11, 12, maybe 13 max. And he said a prayer for Charlie, and then did a Bible verse study, a Bible study on a Bible verse. I think it was Matthew 9 or something. I don't know. But I mean, he has inspired only good things in people. Anyone who has a negative opinion of Charlie, they're these crazy people who they just have no concept of reality. They have no concept of civility. It's just insane. And you see that in the reaction to his assassination. You really do. Gentlemen like this guy in the second video here, nothing but love and support for him. He just has to come a little better prepared. And I think him and the Turning Point USA guys could come to a good agreement, a good conclusion. But yeah,